welcome back to Daybreak. I did promise Charles Owino right of reply on the issue of the National Police Service versus the National Police Service Commission, but I just want to give us some context. Article 246 of the Constitution is what established the National Police Service Commission, and it stipulates the commission shall consist of the following persons, each appointed by the President: a person who is qualified to be appointed as a High Court judge, 2 retired senior police officers, and 3 persons of integrity who have served the public with distinction: the Inspector General of the National Police Service, both Deputy Inspector Generals of the National Police Service, and the Commission shall recruit and appoint persons to hold or act in offices in the service, confirm appointments and determine promotions and transfers within the National Police Service, observing due process, exercise disciplinary control over and remove persons holding or acting in offices within the service, and perform any other function prescribed by the national legislation. Charles had talked about co-opted members. We have Amin Mohammed currently, who is the director of the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, and Banis Sialal, who is the Secretary Administration Accounting Officer of the National Police Service. Charles, have the last word on this so that we can get straight into matters policing and human rights.
It's interesting. You've read the Constitution, Article 246. You should also read the Constitution on the article that gives the role of the IG. You will find it states that the IG shall not take instructions from any person on matters, employment, promotions, except from the Cabinet Secretary on matters of policy, and it must be in writing. The same Constitution talks about
so that's 245(4).
Yes.
The Cabinet Secretary responsible for police services may lawfully give a direction to the Inspector General with respect to any matter of policy for the National Police Service, but no person may give a direction to the Inspector General with respect to the investigation of any particular offence or offences, enforcement of the law against any particular person or persons, or the employment, assignment, promotion, suspension, or dismissal of any members of the National Police Service.
So if you read that carefully, the Constitution appears to be contradicting itself, because it gives the powers to the Commission, which I understand the IG sits. On the other side, it says he cannot take instructions from anybody, save for matters of policy from the minister may give him instructions on matters of policy. And in writing. Equally, if you go to the same Constitution, you'll find now where he's also expected to take instructions from DPP on matters of investigations of certain matters. So there are a lot of gray areas that need to be looked into to avoid such controversies. But most importantly, I heard from Grace. Those ones can be sorted out internally. But I've heard from Grace of Imlu saying about digital recruitment. Fine, it's okay. We can have people apply digitally, but still we have challenges. Not every part of the country is covered on a digital network. There are a number of parts of the country that are not discharged in digital network. Equally, based on human rights, there are a number of children who cannot even afford bundles, a number of families that cannot even afford bundles for you to log into that system. Equally, during recruitments, there are a lot of frustrations, whether it is public service portal or even police service portal. The moment, because people don't have jobs, everybody wants, if people wake up as early as 1 a.m. to try and get into the portal. So if you look at it practically, digital recruitment would be more discriminative and will provide less opportunity for every Kenyan compared to physical recruitment. But still, even if we would have digital recruitment, we must allow police to undertake physical recruitment to know the person he's recruiting. But most importantly, we have both police and civilian staff within the police service. We have not discriminated recruiting persons living with disability under the civilian staff. But let us allow the police to recruit people who are physically fit for the role of being police officers. after all, even after joining the police, we have many officers who have become disabled. Maybe through accidents, some have been shot, and they have never been discriminated. Okay. They continue working. But let us be practical in what we are saying. Let us not introduce a lot of activism in what we are doing. Let us be very practical. And I think as we try to grow, you are aware that we have 100,000 kilometers digital superhighway pledge by the government, and you are aware that he has already done 24,000. And we are also introducing satellite. I come from the Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy, so I'm informed. Okay. So what I can say is that for now, we will leave out so many potential young Kenyans who may not be able to access digital recruitment. Okay. Yes. So I want to put a pin in that conversation, and we get, I'm sorry about that, but I want to get, Martin, I want to get us into matters policing and human rights. So the Kenya Kwanza administration's record over the last 3 years of President William Ruto in office as president. And I'll start with you, Samson. What is your assessment?
Thanks, Olive. I think my starting point would be that police officers are the #1 defenders of human rights. And therefore, police is #1 human rights defender. I think for me, that's my starting point. The second point is that, and let me give this illustration. How would I describe policing over the last few years, or possibly when the Kenya Kwanza administration came into government? Allow me to use the illustration of 2 gentlemen that were waiting for salvation. And as they waited for salvation, they kept doing a lot of things. So they took stories, conversations, musings, and everything in the context that their salvation is coming. Unfortunately, that salvation did not come. I think that is where we are possibly are with the police in Kenya. That the salvation that we have been looking for is the salvation of what we call democratic policing. A policing that respects human rights, policing that promotes human rights, policing that promotes accountability, transparency, non-discrimination, and all those facets that we have in Article 10, and of course on the chapter of national security, which is in the Constitution. Now, as we wait for democratic policing, what have we done? Of course, we have created task forces, we have established laws, we have established institutions, and we have done everything possible to give us the salvation we are looking for. Now, the salvation is democratic policing. Unfortunately, we are not yet there. So we have, we are still struggling with a lot of things post the government coming into this, because we've seen, over the last 3 years, we've seen issues of extrajudicial executions, of course, enforced disappearances. We've seen injuries, some of them lifelong, and all that. So yes, we are not doing well.
We're not doing well. All right, I'll ask you, Martin, to come in at this point. A lot of pledges were made. There's a lot of expectation when this administration came into office on account of statements they made. So they promised that police will not be used for political ends, to pursue political ends. They talked about, and they did this, where they wanted the police to be independent, and so appointed an accounting officer, right? The other thing, you had a president talk about the most inept IG. George Kinoti also got quite flaying. So there were a lot of expectations when this administration came into office that the police will be, quote unquote, brought to order, the police service. Have your expectations been met?
I'll say no. These expectations have not been met, and I think plugging in from where Samson has left it, I think this government came in with a lot of pledges, which was the salvation that we were looking for. Looking at transforming the police force to a police service. And the president was right that actually the police, as it were when he came into power, had a lot of flaw. We had not moved from having the police force, as it were in the colonial time, what was addressed in Lansley Task Force, what we were to reform, we had not actually achieved. The Lansley Task Force recommended, we captured those recommendations in our constitution, giving us what we have now, talking about the commission and all these structures that we have. But the reform in itself, having a police service that does what was expected to be done, or moving away from a police force that was under the dictates of the executive, doing what the executive wanted them to do at whatever time they wanted them to do it, we've never moved to achieve what we wanted as a salvation. One, you could see we've not changed from what happened, actually, what triggered the Lansley Task Force to be formed, to inquire into the malpractices of police in 2007, and the recommendation then that followed from that task force. You can see when it is the election 2013, we had the same issues of police brutality, abuse, and human rights. Even the recent events that we've had, the demos that we've had, the Gen Z demonstrations, the police have continued to operate as if they were a company of some sort, as it were in the pre-independence period. So that if the executive gives the orders through the Inspector General, then orders are followed without looking at the aspect of how am I going to... sometimes I can't say that actually it is the formation in the police service, but the individuals, as Owino said, that are recruited to the police service commission itself, the police service, and the characters that come in with. Sometimes you wonder if. Is that what we really envisioned when we talk about reforms in the police?
Okay. Grace, let's get your take before I come to you, Charles. Grace, what's your ranking? Where does this administration stand where matters policing and human rights, in your perspective, is concerned?
So thank you for that question. We are heavily disappointed as a sector and as Kenyans. Let me just firm this up by giving you numbers. In 2023, we reported 67, that is IMLU as an institution, 67 persons who were killed, extrajudicial killings. We reported over 600 arrests. That was during the protests in regard to the high cost of living. In 2024 Gen Z-led protests, we reported 63 deaths, extrajudicial killings. We reported 63 enforced disappearances and over 600 injuries. Come 2025, we have so far documented 65 extrajudicial killings, and we are only in September, and we've reported over 800 serious injuries. The Missing Voices Coalition, of which is part of, reported 159 extrajudicial killings for the year 2024. With that kind of a record, these are human lives. These are people we are talking about. We are talking of Rex Masai. We are talking of Boniface Kariuki. We are talking of Bridget. So these are people who have died in the hands of an administration whose one of the key pledges they made when they came in office was that they would put an end to enforced disappearances and that there would be no more extrajudicial killings. Now, from where we sit, it's very, very unfortunate that the first 3 years of this regime have been, the only reports we can give are of gross human rights violations or of loss of young Kenyans who've done nothing but go on to the streets to petition and push for transformation, to petition and push for an end to corruption, to petition and for, a taxation brackets that don't put Kenyans into the very deep holes that they are in. And therefore, We have seen increased silencing of the voice and dissent, a total sort of a capture of state institutions. And I'll be very happy to speak about this with the details. We have seen, the Article 37 being completely put under the bus. We are trying to kill the right to petition and voice, and it's becoming very difficult for Kenyans to voice themselves. Look at the bloggers who've been killed, surveilled, arrested just because they questioned pertinent issues that Kenyans have to speak about. Remember, a democracy is about a space for citizens to engage with their leadership, for citizens to put their voices out there and contribute to them, not just to the reforms agenda, but to the governance of their country. So gross human rights violations, very poor governance in almost all the spaces, state capture of key institutions, including parliament, which should be oversighting and leading in legal policies that ensure transparency, accountability, rule of law. And then one of the most appalling situations we have seen that's becoming a practice is these public populistic pronouncements that are not anchored on law, that are meant to address critical issues that need to be addressed through constitutionally mandated institutions and offices. We have a beautiful constitution. It's being, pushed down. It's being watered down. It's not being enforced and implemented. And at 15 years of our Katiba, we are actually reporting repression. We are reporting suppression of voice, and we are reporting more oppression of the Kenyans and of the Kenyan people.
All right, Charles. So far, not a glowing review. Let me put it that way. For example, on the question of extrajudicial killings, we had this president whistleblow, right, on the question of talking about rivers in Yala, talking about, where was it he was saying people were being held? Nairobi Central or something like that, in a container. So he acknowledged these issues when he came into office, and we've had the numbers that Grace has shared with us, and they say numbers don't lie.
First of all, I disagree with the word "this president." The presidency is a position that an individual that is elected sits on. And therefore, we must respect the presidency. No matter who is there. So,
who is the disrespect?
No, the word "this president." Anyway.
But it is this president.
Anyway, Sawa.
It's occupied by a person.
Yeah, but I'm lucky. I'm with Omundi here from Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. And I've known him from the days when he started working as an intern up to the level he has reached. You know, there's a saying in Luo which says, Yany Ogwang, Yany Gweno. You know, I don't know how to interpret it.
Please translate.
Utukane mangus, utukane kuku. Kwamba, this mangus has eaten my chicken. But this chicken, why did it stray away? I have this food here, why did it go to the forest? Isn't it? You know, that's a saying in Luo.
Oh, okay.
Yany Gweno, Yany Ogwang. Omondi has said it rightly, that police is the #1 defender of human rights. What it means is that it is the responsibility of the police to protect rights of individuals in the country. And we all rely on police for our internal security. We have a constitution. You know, I hear people talk about Article 37 every day, but they only talk about one part, which says every person has a right to assemble, to picket, to demonstrate. That's the only one they talk about. Even our institution that is funded by the Exchequer, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, Omondi will only talk about that part. He will never touch.
The other part.
He will never talk about peaceably and unarmed. He will never talk about that.
Oh, we do. That's not right.
What? Let me talk. I was quiet. They never want. Now,
No,
number two,
let's just...
one of the gains, don't interrupt me, please.
No, Grace, I'll give you a chance to respond.
Yeah. One of the gains, the major gains Kenya achieved in the Constitution 2010 was Chapter 4 of the Constitution, which is the human rights aspect. It is anchored in our Constitution. But rights have limits. If you read the Constitution, well, limits to rights. And it states clearly, Article 24D, that as you enjoy your rights and fundamental freedoms, you don't prejudice rights and freedoms of others. Limits. If you go to, how do you term them? There are rights that are mandatory. What is the term? Like torture.
Non-derogable rights.
Yes. You know, if I say this, they will attack me the whole week. That life is a right that can be taken by law. The court can make a decision and sentence you to death.
Yes.
As much as we don't nowadays practice, for a long time we have not had anybody hanged, but it is provided for in law. And equally, the police can also use their firearms against an individual lawfully.
Yes.
It is in our articles of law when police may use their firearms. God forbid, my late friend, brother, and my nephew Ongondowere. Ongondowere was not our nephew, actually our son-in-law, married our cousin. This guy and I come from the same clan in Alego. Married our cousin. His bodyguards are in court for inaction. They are armed. They never protected their boss. Now, what I want to say is simple.
Yeah.
That where we have had controversy between the public and police, majorly is on demonstrations. And Omondi, I heard Grace talk about the roles that he read, like professionalizing the police, which is a role of the Inspector General, to ensure that the police is professionalized. You professionalize an institution through training. You train officers on law, you train them on rights, and Omondi, you should strive to get a lot of money for training. So that we not only train the police, we also train the public. That you cannot go and loot a supermarket. You cannot go and burn somebody's property, and then police are expected to come and greet you with gloves. It will never happen.
So can I pose this to you? You talked about yes, Grace.
No. And I know. I want to be the devil here, and I want to be very honest. This is our country. We must protect our country. Let us demonstrate democratically also.
Okay, Grace. Let's Grace.
Because that is the point of the major point of disagreement.
Grace, have your rejoinder, and then I have a follow-up question for you. Go ahead, Grace.
So I have three quick comments. Number one, I think all media stations did capture the young people with only their phones, with water bottles, and with white scarves and handkerchiefs. They were not armed, and we can confirm and we can demonstrate that actually anytime politicians brought guns into the peaceful protests, that's when we had violence. So there's need to distinguish between peaceful protesters and the guns that have been brought in. Number two, public order management trains and dictates on how you handle and de-escalate situations. So police cannot go opening fire because they're demonstrators. I mean, Charles, you have been in the police service. You know the Public Order Management Act. It provides for de-escalation of situations. So there's no way you can state that in order to protect whatever you can kill. I mean, that can never be. Number 3, we're actually pushing for the abolition of the death penalty. The right to life must be protected at all costs. Actually, Kenya is one of the very few countries that are still not abolished the death penalty completely. It should be abolished. So I just want Yvonne to be very, very clear. We can never justify killing of innocent people. And Charles, please remember this. Boniface Kariuki was shot while standing on the streets in broad daylight in front of cameras. He had absolutely no weapon on his hands. So we cannot confuse matters here. Peaceful protesters have a right to be on the streets. Rex Masai was walking away, he was shot. We know Beatrice who's died innocently in her house. We are talking of cases that we can, bring names and demonstrate people who were killed while not holding any single weapon. So
No, Omondi, before you get to that, I personally don't advocate for unlawful killings. I don't. And I've charged police officers, as a DCI officer, I've taken police officers to court who have killed unlawfully. And I've testified and they have been jailed and sentenced for life. I don't advocate for that. What I don't accept is indiscipline. There were no goons in Kikuyu when we were burning court. There were no goons in Kikuyu when we were burning police station. We must be disciplined as a country. Both police and the public must be disciplined. This is our country. What we are saying is, don't lie to the public that the police may not use their firearms against you. We want to limit as much casualties as possible. Equally, police officers take individual responsibility. If you kill a person who just has an handkerchief, the police officer must be told, you will face the law. And there are officers who are serving jail currently as we speak. What I'm saying is, at my age and my experience, is that don't lie to a young man that the police may not use their firearms. We just saw what happened in Nepal. They have changed government, yes, they have burnt everything. How many years will they take to recover?
All right.
What we are saying is, no, let me just finish. What I'm saying is, this is our country, it's a beautiful country. We must deal with rogue police officers who are wrong, but we must also deal with our own discipline as a country. All of us, myself, our children, we must deal with that. So what I'm just saying is, can we face reality as a community, as a society? These leaders come and go. We had Kenyatta one. We had Moi, we have had Kibaki, we have had Uhuru, now we have the current president. And I can tell you, any serving civil servant who will do anything thinking that he has a godfather, you are lost.
All right,
because tomorrow, you will be dealt with by the law.
Go ahead, Samson.
Thank you, Charles. I think, and Olive, I think maybe 3 things. Number 1 is that we must all follow the law. So both the police and the members of the public. But I think one of the things we must agree to is that the police have a higher calling. That is why we call the police duty bearers. That is why we call the government the main duty bearer when it comes to promotion and protection of human rights. The law allows the police to use their firearms. When you look at the 6th schedule of the National Police Service Act, it allows the police to use their firearms, and it provides circumstances under which this can be done. I know there have been several attempts to amend particularly that section so that police can be allowed to use firearms, particularly to protect property, because that has been controversial. Because the law allows them to use force to protect their life, when the life of another person in danger and all that. But the issue of property has been controversial because, I mean, you can't equate property to life. Because when you take away life, life is irreversible. I think that is one. But number two, if you look at the circumstances where we've seen people lose their lives over the last 3 years, or even before this administration came into power, is that majority of those that have been killed, shot by the police, are those that are actually unarmed, those that are going about doing their businesses. And I think in the last demonstrations, we've also seen a couple of children that have been killed, possibly by stray bullets. Those that are even standing just waiting for the buses to go home after work. And therefore, the question that we keep asking is, can we follow regulations? Can we follow the law? Can we ensure that we do the right thing, which is following what is put in law? Like, can we discharge firearms when it is required? Can we use the firearms for what is provided for? I think the last thing is on the issue of trainings. There are certain things that will require training, but there are certain things that will not require training. Like, I don't know whether you will require training to know that you should not shoot an armed protester. That does not require training. I don't think that it requires training for you to know that you should not shoot a child. I don't think that requires training. What some of these things require is really a change of our morals and a change of our attitude, and just doing what is required. But if we give some excuses of, let's train, let's do this, there are some of those things that are so basic that, I mean, for lack of a better term, a normal human being should be able to just put them into consideration.
All right. Let's get your take, Martin.
And I mean, in addition to what Samson had just talked about, I mean, and what Owino was mentioning about, we're giving an example of Kikuyu police station being torched. I mean, we must disassociate policing from politics. Yeah. The way that that scene was choreographed, it is, for me, in most cases where this case of Kikuyu was brought into, it was not just a normal citizen walking into a police station and touch it. Follow the pronouncement that actually Nani has mentioned about giving insensitive orders, shoot to kill. I mean, you could see that actually it is all about politicizing policing. I mean, why should that case arise and then followed by the orders that were given, shoot to kill, use firearms? I mean, if we dissociate and if we are serious about police reforms and what Samson has said about using firearms when it is necessary, you cannot take that stand that the minister took when he went to Kikuyu to give orders, shoot to kill. So it is all about how do we dissociate politics from policing if we have to achieve what we wanted to achieve in police reform.
All right. So you brought up the shoot to kill statement that was made, I believe, by Nelson Koech, and the shoot in the leg statement that was made by the president. Let's take a listen to that.
Niseme na nishukuru Rais William Samoei Ruto. Wakati jana umesema shoot but do not kill. I want to repeat it here. In fact, shoot and kill.
Mtu ambaye anachukua moto, anaenda kuchoma biashara ya mtu. Anaenda kuchoma mali ya watu wengine. Mtu kama huyo apigwe risasi miguu, aende hospitali, akienda kotini. Wasimuue lakini wapige hii miguu ivunjike ndio aende kotini, aende hospitali, akienda kotini.
Grace, just reflecting on the last 3 years, there's something that has been, two things I think I've picked from Martin, and he's talked about policing not having changed from the pre-colonial era. And he's talked about the mingling of politics and policing. Do you share his views on the same?
Absolutely, and thank you for giving me the opportunity, because I actually wanted to just echo those words. Now we have weaponized, policing such that we are going back to a national police force and not a police service, because our drive is the voice of the politicians and not the voice of democracy. Now, we have to remember that why people are on the streets is to protect this country. And I hear Owino saying he loves the country. I love my country deeply. Kenyans love Kenya deeply. Nobody wakes up. These young people, 22-year-olds, 19-year-old, 26, they don't wake up and go to the streets because they have nothing to do. They are going to the streets to protect their democracy, to protect their country from going down the drains, because we are watching and seeing Kenya going down. These young people with nothing, they walk kilometers, walking, chanting, burning under the sun, being rained on. It's not because they don't love their country. It's because they love this country too deeply. I love my country, and I will voice myself until I'm heard. Why? Because when we now start making these popular statements, shoot to kill, honestly, when a leader makes such a statement, when our own president says, shoot the legs, Yvonne, I can tell you, from documentation by IMLU, we are a medical legal-based institution. We have documented deaths as a result of people who were shot in the legs. Not one, not two. And we can work that analysis and give you many numbers. Doctors will tell you, you shoot a leg, you shoot an arm, it ruptures a vital vein, the person dies. So we cannot make such reckless comments just to have a populistic campaign agenda and not a preservation of life, constitution, and democracy. We have families that will never recover, families who've lost their dear ones, families who have people, by the way, Yvonne, we have people in hospitals today as we speak that IMLO is still supporting. We are not even able to keep supporting a lot of them. Some have been discharged and they're still recovering at home. Some are still admitted under serious conditions. We have done numerous autopsies, all confirming people who have died in the hands of those that Omondi said are supposed to be the court defenders. Why are some of those court defenders doing that? Because their leadership has said, go out and shoot. Yet, and I want to go back to what Omondi said, the issue is not lack of training. The issue in Kenya is not lack of skills. The issue in Kenya is not lack of information. It is attitude, behaviors, and practices, and a lack of accountability, all covered up by the fact that there's been impunity over impunity over impunity. People getting away with such comments, people getting away with waking up and shooting, people not using the skills they have been taught. Or we know you've talked about training. Which police officer does not know the de-escalation tactics that are provided for? Which police officer does not know that? It is provided for. Which police officer does not understand that when you shoot a live bullet, the likelihood of killing, it's an automatic death. You're actually lucky to escape, to not die from a live ammunition. So these things, Yvonne, are not about training. Really, it's about loving our country so much and telling ourselves, let's preserve life, let's protect our constitution, let's protect our democracy.
All right, Charles, it appears your fellow panelists agree that there has not really been the culture in the police service has not shifted from that of a force.
What I would want to say is many of us have activist attitude. I've said particularly I've charged officers and taken them to court for unlawful killings when I served as a DCI officer. And still people are going to court. Even now, when you see IPOA and the rest investigating, the person who actually arrests you and takes you to court is the policeman, your colleague. And it is happening. Even the ones which have been, the cases which have been recorded that are under investigations, the moment it is approved that a person should be charged, the officer will be charged. And officers are trained to know that policeman is not military. You take individual responsibility for the actions you have taken. And it is clear. The only area of departure, I don't agree with anybody killing somebody unlawfully. The only area of departure is that, please, And what Omondi has said is fair, and I would want to hear him say this every day. Tell people that police, there are justifiable circumstances when policemen may use their firearms. And this country is not just protected na rungu, it's protected na bunduki. It's a fact. Most of these politicians who come here, they leave their bodyguards outside here. And those bodyguards have arms. And you've seen their bodyguards getting charged if they don't protect them. So let us first of all agree that this is how we are supposed to behave. This is our country. And I believe everybody believes in it. And there's one thing, Barrow, that I would want many people studying, undertaking law to understand. That as human beings, we were not, God did not design us with weapons. Bunduki, all weapons, whether it is nuclear, God did not design us. It is our own design. The arm that God gave us is this arm. Omondi, I just need this arm to squeeze your neck here and kill you.
Yes, yes.
And that is why I want anybody who has studied law to remember this. And that is why, if you go to elements of robbery with violence, today, if you walk along Dennis Street and an individual comes, uses force, he has an arm, even if it's a knife, a weapon, and takes away that phone, it amounts to robbery with violence.
Yes.
Equally, if two people come, that one was one person, if two people come, they don't have any weapon, they don't have they don't have rungu, they don't have mawe, they don't have a knife, they don't have a gun, but they are two, and forcefully come and take that phone, they are charged for robbery with violence. When is one, there's force, there must be a weapon. When there are two, remember, these are arms. So Mondi, when you have 1,000 youths armed with their hands, attacking a property, no, that is law. And I want you to challenge me. So what I'm saying, Omondi, what I'm saying, yes.
No,
excuse me, excuse me. Just a minute. And I want to challenge you. And that is why, when you are two or more, and you attack an individual, you are charged with robbery with violence. When you are one, you are only charged with robbery with violence if you have a weapon. And Omondi, I can tell you, let me tell you, and I'm putting this clearly to you,
yes,
that don't think that you carry leaves, are you getting me?
Yes.
Or you carry white ribbons, and then you are talking about property which is controversial. You burn a building, there's a child sleeping there, there's something, let me tell you.
Wait, so you're saying when people are protesting, what should they do with their hands?
No. What I've said is you must remain peaceable.
Just let me say something. Allow me to say one thing, that I think the gun cannot be the de facto weapon. I think that's the point I wanted to make.
Yes.
That I think the point that the police have made us believe that the gun is the only de facto weapon for controlling crowd and dealing with demonstrations. I think, Charles, we must all agree that police are trained, number one. But number two is that they're also equipped with a series of tools that they need to use to control demonstrations. So we have water cannons, we have rubber bullets, we have everything.
Omondi, the first thing, no, don't even go to rubber bullet. The first weapon that the police is armed with is what we call proclamation.
Yes.
Tunasema watu wote waliokusanyika hapa sasa mnaamuriwa mtawanyike na muondoke mara moja bila kusababisha ghasia yoyote.
Okay, you finish.
Akosae kutia hiyo amri atatolewa na nguvu. That is the first weapon. Don't say they believe in the gun. No, that's the first weapon.
Charles, my point is that
the second weapon is the tear gas.
Okay, Charles, let him finish his point.
The third weapon is the rungu. So don't mislead us. We are well trained.
All right. Go ahead, Samson.
No, my point, Olive, is that the gun cannot be the de facto weapon.
That is true.
I think that's the point I want to drive.
Yeah.
Because I think our police have come to believe that the gun is the de facto weapon.
No, there you are wrong. And I've just corrected you, and you are insisting.
So let's look at other methods.
Okay.
Methods that will promote, methods that will not lead to loss of life, that will not lead to loss of lifelong injuries and all that.
Okay. And my question to you is this, right? The best deterrent for this abuse of power, because with great power comes great responsibility, would be what Charles repeatedly says. He has been a DCI officer, he has charged policemen. But we've had, even in the Baby Pendo inquest, they talked about a blue code, or is it a blue wall of silence, where police protect each other. IPOA has talked about frustration when investigating cases of police excesses. They've been here on this set, I have hosted them. Justice, accountability would be the biggest deterrent.
Yes.
And yet there is that sense that many of these cases are being swept under the rug.
I think what we are struggling with, Olives, is impunity. And the fact that seeking accountability for whether it's police killings, police involvement in judicial killings, and all actions that are involved in, is that seeking accountability for it has become very difficult. That we have a small number that go through the process, but a majority of them, people are able to see those that were either involved in killings, they're involved in issuing illegal orders and all that, still serving in service. And the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, of course, and other institutions, of course, have expressed their frustrations. I think one of the things that we need to put into consideration is that the government and, of course, the National Police Service has a big role to play in this, that they have a big role in ensuring that those that do not give unlawful orders, that those that give unlawful orders are weeded out. Those that are engaged in extrajudicial killings are weeded out. Those that are engaged in all those acts that are unlawful and are not provided in law, the National Police Service should take a lead role. And that is why within the National Police Service, we have what we call an Internal Affairs Unit that is expected to work hand in hand with the Independent Policing Oversight Authority to ensure that there's accountability for these violations. But the will of this, I think, has been fairly slow. And that is why deterrence, I think, has become such a big challenge. So we continue to see the cycle of happening, nothing happens. Killings, nothing happens to this. So it becomes order of our business on a daily basis.
All right. Martin, your last word?
Yeah, thanks, Olive. I think Owino has tried to redefine what is being armed, and I think for me that is misleading in his definition. I mean, we've seen actually even the people that he's saying they are armed going out with their arms in the streets. They were demonstrating peacefully and raising their arms up, showing that they've surrendered and they've been killed by the police, as my colleague has just said, that actually they've decided that actually the use of their guns is the last, the de facto weapon they have at their disposal. They've given the orders and people are marching, maybe demonstrating, going away. Or some people are just bystanders and they've been caught in the same misuse of firearms. So I think I'll blame the seniors in the police force, the likes of Owino, who continue to misinform or misform the police who are coming out in terms of what they because if you go out and tell a policeman that actually people who are out in the street with their arms are armed, I don't know whether those police are going to deal with those people who are coming out to picket and peacefully demonstrate, looking at them as unarmed. Because the whole argument already in the classroom has been constructed like these people are already armed. So the perception that police steps out knowing is that actually this person with his arm is a dangerous person who can... And I don't agree with Owino in that sense.
Okay.
No, that was an assignment for him.
Okay. Grace, your last word?
Yeah, we really must stop weaponizing police, and we must stop politicizing policing. So weaponizing policing and politicizing policing. Now, the police service, actually under the IG has independent control over the police and that person should be able to effectively manage the police service under the Constitution. So the interference of politicians and of the executive with policing is a big no-go zone. And in fact, these pronouncements are the ones that are making now people like Owino make the statement he's just made around people's, innocent citizens being armed, because there are thousands going into the streets. We need to know that the voice of the people will continue. It is one of their democratic provided for processes of engaging with their leadership. Picketing is a right that will continue. We have seen a lot of attempts to water down the right to picket, and I want to say that you cannot stop the public from contributing to the reforms agenda. Number 2, preservation of the Constitution, end of life is something we need to prioritize. So we know the issue of infiltration of goons. You have to admit that there's a difference between the protesters, innocent protesters, and the goons that politicians have brought in to ensure that they create commotion and violence, so that it gives room and justification to stop Kenyans from going to the streets and to attack the provision for picketing. We are very clear on the two. So thank you very much, Oli, for having us. And let's stop politicizing and weaponizing policing, and let's ensure that Kenyans have the space to engage. And the numbers that I've read to you, in just 3 years, we are talking of over 300 people who've lost their lives under the service that should be protecting them. It's a very sad status for this country.
All right. Charles, your last word?
Thank you so much. I think this is a healthy debate. We are in a democratic space. We have a lovely country with a good constitution. We are saying the same thing. The only thing, we need to be a bit broad in our discussions. My concern is still one, that we need to bring up our population, understanding that rights have limits, that as you enjoy your rights and fundamental freedoms, you don't prejudice the rights and freedoms of others. I believe that police officers take individual responsibility. The IG may not take a responsibility of an individual police officer who decides to be rogue. But our major area where we are getting the biggest conflict between the public and the police is in demonstrations, because it comes out clearly. And the way they have said it, we stop politicizing. Let's stop politicizing everything. We stop politicizing police. We also stop politicizing young people to do what is not right and to look for shortcuts in the gains that we are looking for. So otherwise, if we can agree as a country that we have rights, these rights have limits, and let us have our discipline, because there are so many things happening. There are a lot of conflicts between police and the public. Even me today, I've had a conflict with a colleague, a senior police officer, whom I know has been bribed by some people to take away property of my friend, and people are constructing on his land unlawfully. But I cannot go fighting. I must be decent. We must know what to do. It's not that even us, we are not affected. If you are an individual in this country, you'll get conflicts. We get conflicts with traffic policemen here and there. It is not, but our biggest challenge is on demonstrations, picketing. It's a big challenge, because this has caused a lot of problems. And we also have rogue police officers who keep on doing wrong things and giving the police a bad name. But generally, what we must agree as a country is that the police is #1 defender of human rights. We need the police.
But when you say the biggest problem is demonstrations and protests, what exactly?
No, that is where we have had the biggest conflict. You see, we have had cases where police officers have unlawfully used their firearms against people. They have been arrested, they have been charged, and we don't get much controversy. Like when we have demonstrations, that is where we have had much controversy. You remember what Omondi said, that there are even stray bullets that have gone ahead, that have gone and they have struck, they have hit children. Yes. And children have died. It's a very unfortunate thing. So what I'm saying, this controversy of demonstrations, if we can be civil in the way we want to demonstrate, to picket, then we will limit much of the controversies.
We'll have to stop the conversation there, unfortunately. Martina, I see you had something to add, but unfortunately, because of time, we'll have to conclude there. Bobo Wino says policing and human rights has deteriorated and gotten worse. 3 years under President William Ruto, enforced disappearance, extrajudicial killings on the rise, even created enmity between police and Kenyans. On a scale out of 10, I give him 3 out of 10. Engineer Lazaro Kanyambok says harmonized merger between Blue Boys and politically militarized RDU of AP eroded professionalism in police service. Most AP units undergo full combat training, have no time for observing human rights. Remy Butia says President Ruto has committed to improving police remuneration, creating new entry points into the NPS and enforcing policies like a 3-year transfer limit at police stations, aiming to professionalize and modernize the police service. And Black Kaiser says what happened in Nepal was actually a good thing. All right, we conclude Daybreak on that point. My name is Olive Burrows. Thank you, Charles Owino, National Communications Center, Grace Wangeshi, Executive Director, IMLU Independent Medical Legal Unit, Samson Omondi, Assistant Director, KNCHR, and Martin Omwange, who is Inuka Kenya Nisisi. Have a good morning.